And today in Marketplace Law, driving while intoxicated, of course, it's a very serious crime, and it's something that police do look for regularly. Big game coming up Monday night, so we don't want you to make mistakes. Today, representing the Columbus Bar Association is Anthony Mancuso from Mancuso Law Offices to tell us more about it. Thanks for being here,
Sean,
Anthony.
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And very topical with the game coming up, and people might lose track of how much they have had.
That's for sure, especially with the game on
Right.
Monday night. It's kind of an interesting topic to hit on today.
It really is.
You got lots of people that are going to be out there drinking and partying and rooting for Cardell Jones and Urban Meyer, and the game will be over and it'll be time to drive home, and there's a lot going on the road.
So what happens, assuming that someone is pulled over, what is that process?
Well, basically what usually happens, Sean, in a typical OVI arrest is a police officer will approach the car and ask you some questions and kind of get an idea of whether or not a person may or may not be impaired. And then inevitably they get out of the car, and here, if it's tonight, it's going to be 10 degrees where they're out there doing that. And they start with something basic called a standardized field sobriety test. I don't know if your audience or you are familiar with that. There's some basic things that are taught by police officers to look for, and they run through what's called field sobriety tests. There's generally 3 of them that are done. One being what's called a horizontal gaze nystagmus, but everybody knows it as the pen test, the eye test. Basically what officers are looking for, the short version is that they're looking for various reactions with your eyes and whether or not that means you're under the influence. And then usually that moves on to what's called the walk and turn, which people walk heel to toe and turn around, walk 9 steps. Another standard test would be a one-legged stand where you count. Basically what an officer's looking for, it's very typical of can a person chew gum and talk at the same time?
Gotcha.
They're looking for how you're doing on these tests, but they're also looking for whether or not you can follow the directions.
So if they have cause then, assuming that they find that you are impaired, right? You are immediately arrested, put in the police car, taken away.
Right, that's generally what happens. Your car's towed, and that's not a good thing for most people.
Now the big debate is, do you blow, don't you blow, do you do a blood test? Blood tests are mandatory in some places, aren't
Well,
they?
not in our state. The officers in Ohio can decide what tests they're going to administer. There's 3 of chemical tests, one being breath, the other urine, the other blood. People get confused. That's the officer's choice. Even though in Franklin County we almost always run breath tests, but an officer can ask for a urine and or a blood. And ironically, in the law, a person can even get their own test, which almost no one ever does. I think in the thousands of cases I've done, I've had that happen maybe 3 times where a defendant gets their own test. But that's a great question. Do you take the test when asked? Every defendant in that situation wants to know what they should do or what they shouldn't do. Ironically, there is a law out there in the OVI statutes that lawyers aren't allowed to tell you to refuse the test. So we have to dance around that and kind of be lawyer tricky in how we talk to people.
Now we don't have a ton of time. Oh, I just took 10 seconds sneezing, excuse me.
Okay.
We don't have a ton of time. So if someone is arrested immediately, first thing they do, call a lawyer, correct?
Well, they should. At least asked to do that. Sometimes they don't let you.
And I know you have defended both sides of these cases.
Prosecuted and defended them. So.
Is it very expensive?
Well, the costs are just incredible. The lawyer fees are out the window. You have to pay to reinstate your license, which can run $400 or $500. You take OVI alcohol classes, which are $400.
So it is expensive.
Insurance costs. I mean, a typical OVI can sometimes run people $5,000 on up.
Thank you so much, and obviously not worth the risk.
Well, not at all.
Thank you.
Go Bucks.
Yes, absolutely. Anthony Mancuso, thank you for being here.